Welcome to Paradigm Playbook, the podcast on the business of sports. With 50 plus years of experience, Steve Cook shares insights weekly, featuring top playmakers shaping the industry. Get ready to script your next play. Now, here's your host.
Hello and welcome to Paradigm Playbook. I'm the host, Steve Cook. Very excited alongside my guest today, Miren Oca. And Miren, this is such an honor to have you on here with me. So I've got to tell you how I have become introduced to you and I found out about you. A good friend that we both have is Andy Broido. And Andy, from the time I launched my podcast, she said, Miren's got to be a guest. So it's taking me a year to get to this, but thank you so much for joining. For those that don't know, Miren is the founder of a B Corp certified Ocaquatics, and she's the founder of Ripples of Impact, which is something that I want to dig into a little bit because that has me fascinated. But Miren is doing an awful lot of good in the world, and she's a perfect example that you can do very well by doing good, and I like that. So with that said, Miren, why don't you introduce yourself how you would have preferred to be introduced?
Oh, Steve, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And I've been a business owner for 32 years. I started Ocaquatics 32 years ago. Lots happened with that. I'm sure going to talk about that a lot. I have a 34-year-old son, Ian, and he's kind of the reason why I started the business a long, long time ago. The business has been great. It is a certified B Corporation. Like you mentioned, we've been certified since 2022. We can talk about what that means because it's really an exciting thing for us. But we're also aligned with the values of conscious capitalism. And that means that we want to be a business that's used as a force for good. And we want to do some really great things in the world. So it's a pleasure to be here with you to talk about those things.
So I'd written a book about the business of sports, and I have a chapter in there, Balancing Profit and Purpose. And so I remember Andy saying, so I know who lived this. But before we go any further, I've got to tell everybody, one of my favorite things is your logo. So Miren has a logo that is literally a doodle. So everybody has to go to the website for no other reason than just to see the logo. And it's a curly hair girl. It's beautiful.
That's what I got going on here. And I've had it all my life. And I actually started using that little signature in high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did. I started in high school just signing my name like that. And it has stuck. And I still use it to this day. If you've ever gotten a card from me, that's what you're going to see. And sometimes I don't even sign my name. I just use that. So I decided that should be my logo. That should be what I use as my logo.
I think it's wonderful. And people know McDonald's by the arches and Miren Oca by the little doodle girl, which is awesome. So let's go back 30 whatever years ago, the motivation for getting in business. And at that point, what told you that you had what it takes to be a business person?
Oh, well, that's a really interesting question because my parents were immigrants to the US and they had a business and I watched it and it was hard. And I thought, I'm never going to have a business ever. They had a restaurant business. So I decided I'm going to get a good, secure job. I'm going to go to college. I was getting my degree in biochemistry. I was going to become an orthopedic surgeon. That's a good, stable career. I discovered I was pregnant at the age of 19. I moved to Miami to be closer to my mom and I needed to make a living. I needed to do. So I went back to what I knew how to do, which was teaching swimming. And those early days were pretty messy and not very smooth at all. I didn't know what I was doing, but my son and I would spend a lot of time in bookstores and libraries reading books. He would read his, I would read mine, and I was learning how to build a business through the books that I was reading. You're a big fan of books, I can tell, and I'm a big fan of books. Now, back in the day, I couldn't afford the books. Now I buy books a lot and I give them away and we read them on our team and everything. But that's how I got my start in business. I had to do it. It wasn't a long-term strategy. It was survival mode. I just started picking up books and reading and learning, and I never thought I would do this for this long, but here we are 32 years later, still doing the same thing.
So when did you go from being a swim teacher to a swim school owner? How far into that process?
So, I taught through high school and college. When I started teaching in Miami, just to, let me make some cash basically. And when my son was just under 2, I decided, let me start the business. So that's when I started the business and called it Ocaquatics because I thought, I need liability insurance and I need to, if in case I hire someone. And so I start this little business. I hired my first swimming teacher. It was a high school student. And we just went to homes and we did swimming lessons that way. And then about a year in, I got my first hotel pool and we stayed at the hotel and did swimming lessons. And then I got a country club pool, and then another hotel pool, and then a private school, you know, like those kinds of things, and kind of kept adding pools. I didn't build a building until about 14 years in.
Oh, wow. One of the things that I hear a lot of people say, I'm thinking about going into business, but I don't think I can get the money. And there's a misconception that, okay, if you're going to start a business, you got to have $500,000 and you're going to have to get a line of credit and you're going to have to rent a building. And I think your story is a good lesson for anybody that wants to start a business, that you can do it without a huge investment. Now, as you grow, you have to be aware of money and finance. So was that book learning, or did that come out when you say college? And I'm thinking, what'd you say, biochemistry or bio?
Biochemistry, yes.
Yeah, so it's like there's not a lot of accounting courses probably in that.
No, I think I've learned more from the books that I've read than what I actually did in college. And I think it's a mistake when people get a college degree and then that's it, I'm done. You have to keep learning. You have to keep reading, listening to podcasts. I think podcasts like this that have practical experience, life experience, those are really important. I started my business with a lot of debt, actually. And it wasn't debt to build the business. It was personal debt to support my family. So when I started the business, I was really scrappy. I was pretty gritty. I did whatever I had to do, like, okay, home lessons. I taught in hotel pools. I went everywhere. But as the business started to grow, I really saved a lot of money. I focused on, okay, am I going to go to med school or am I going to keep doing this? And when I decided that I would keep doing this, I really focused. I really learned from all those in the industry who had gone before me. Andy and I have been friends for a million years, it feels like, you know? And so we would get together and talk about what it would look like for me to build and all sorts of things. So it was really just one of those things you learn from the people who've done things before you.
I don't know the rest of the world. I know sports business, entrepreneurs in this world. And one of the things that amazes me is that most people like you are so willing to share. And people like Andy, Andy's done it all. Originally, you know, you have to make a living, you have to pay your bills and all that, but you get to a point, and it's why I started the podcast, is okay, what have I learned that we can share with as many people as possible? And that's when Andy said, you got to get Miren on there. There's a tendency right now, private equity is very interested in the swim school business and the gymnastic business. But I think those of us that got into it because of a passion are intent on making sure that the passion stays within the business. One of the things, we were on a webinar with Third Level Consulting yesterday, and someone mentioned that, you know, when the business isn't you anymore, it has to be, you have to separate it. But I said, but when you separate it, you have to make sure that the passion is still there, which I know you're very big on the culture side of the business.
Yes.
So let's dig in a little bit. Just what are some simple things that build culture that people that want to come to work for you? I know it's not just money.
Yeah, I just wrote down culture because while you were talking, it was prompting a few ideas for me. Culture is number one. That's the most important thing, because if we don't take care of the team who are taking care of the business, then we don't really have a business. And a lot of people say that, but they don't really do that. We do treat our team members like our number one customer, and we want to make sure they feel warm and welcome when they come to work, and that they feel like we're growing them and we're giving them tools and opportunities to continue growing while they're working with us. And over the years, Ocaquatics has become this place where personal development and leadership development is almost as important as swimming instruction. Because if we can really invest in our team members, growing our team members is really good for business, because they stay longer, they serve better, they're happier at work. That helps our clients be happier, so they stay longer. So that's really good for our bottom line. So it's a win-win-win. We have this culture, we call it our Own It culture, and it's an acronym. You know, O is operate with purpose. Purpose is so important. You have to tell people why they're doing the work they do and why it matters. W is welcome growth. We need to always be learning from them. We want to learn from them. We want them to learn from us. N is navigate with courage. It takes a lot to build indoor swimming pools. I is invest in others. That's a really huge part of what we do, investing in our swimmers, but also investing in our team members. And then T is transforming together. We are going to do this work together. And so that's why I think becoming a B Corp, you know, B Corps are for-profit businesses that focus not just on profit, but they focus on a triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit. And if you do those things, you actually end up having a better business. So we we think that being a B Corp has helped our business.
Wow.
And
It's fascinating to me. We talk about books, and I'm sure you've read Unreasonable Hospitality.
oh my goodness, it's my favorite. I have it somewhere here. We just did a workshop yesterday at work on unreasonable hospitality.
So everybody that's listening, write that down. That's a book you want to go read or listen to. But it's about a restaurant and moving to #1 in the ratings worldwide as a restaurant. But where I'm tying this back in is he talked about you've got to have your staff, your people, your team that believes and adopts your passion for what you're doing. And if you do that, the reflection will be seen by all of your customers, clients, whatever it is. It starts with your people. So I love that. I love the fact that every picture I found on your website, everybody's smiling. You know, they may be in the water, on land, at a birthday party, whatever, but everybody's smiling. That's part of your culture.
I didn't mention to you, but that business that my parents owned when they moved to the US was a restaurant. So I
Oh,
grew up in
yeah.
a restaurant business and I saw it was a hospitality company. And so we have considered our team the hospitality team. And we call our front desk team members, they're the hospitality team because we are a hospitality company. So that's why when that book came out, it was like, it's perfect. And I think it is perfect for a service-based industry, regardless of what you're doing.
I'm a big fan of Jeff Metzger's boot camp. I don't know if you've ever, I'm lucky enough, I'm going back again this year to speak there, and I just love it. But they do the same thing. They don't have a customer service department, they have a hospitality department. And little things like they have a locker in their facility that has granola bars and energy drinks and things like that. And it's there for whoever needs it. You know, they're not selling them. It's a very small price. Sometimes you just need a sip of energy to get through the day. Was it hard getting people to buy in, or was your developing of that culture a result of not having the culture, or did you always see that?
I think it's one of the ideas from Unreasonable Hospitality and actually Danny Meyer setting the table. It's constant gentle pressure. You
Right.
have to always be living this and doing it and talking about it and over communicate. And by doing that, it became the norm. Everybody started talking about it. And our team will talk about constant gentle pressure to this day, because that's kind of
Really?
how we get everything moving towards the culture. So I think it's been an evolution over time. It didn't just poof start one day. It's been layering different things and different ideas. And now we call it Own It. We called it Own It starting about 4 or 5 years ago, but now it's especially meaningful because we are 100% employee owned. You know, on our 30-year anniversary, just over 2 years ago, I decided to sell 100% of the company to my employees through an employee ownership trust. And we can talk about that a little bit if you'd like to, but
Yeah, I would.
when we did that transaction, the team members were like, oh, it's a perfect fit. Own it is our culture. You tell us to own it all the time. If somebody makes a mistake, we all make mistakes. Own it. I think I grew the company in my early 20s. I mean, I was 22 when I started this company and I made so many mistakes. So now when I look at our young team members that are 22 and they're making mistakes, I know it's going to be okay as long as we fix it and they own it and we move on together. We keep growing. We give a lot of grace to our team members. And the transaction, you know, what we did when we did the transition to an EOT, there were fewer than 50 in the United States, but it is the primary form of ownership, like in the UK, in England. We chose this model because it's trust ownership. So I sold my company to a trust. The beneficiaries of the trust are the employee owners who qualify. And to qualify, you have to have worked here 2,500 hours, which is about 15 months of full-time or 30 months if they're part-time, depending on how many hours they work. And once they become a co-owner, we call them co-owners, they get a share in the profit at the end of every year. So at the end of every year, we take all the profit that's left after all the bills we have to pay. And then we have a fund, we have an amount that goes to reserves account. We have an amount that goes to a capital expenditure fund. And then everything that's left, we split it amongst the co-owners in proportion to their salary.
Little bit confused. Are you there day to day overseeing this?
I did an ownership transition, but I didn't do the leadership transition. So I'm still the CEO,
Okay.
co-owner, along with we have 55 co-owners now. So I still work there. So I still get a share of the profits as a co-owner, but I also get my note payment because I did seller financing. So I sold the company to the trust and the trust is buying the company from me or they're through a seller note. Every month I get a note payment.
Very interesting. So the owners, other than having worked there before, are they buying in?
They're buying in with their time and dedication.
So they're earning in basically. So part of the profit goes into the trust that's paying you.
Yes.
So you're still selling. I think it's really interesting that people jump to B Corp as not for profit. I think there's a mistake
I
in
know.
the thinking that people go there or they say, no, I can't do that because I need the money from the business. And I don't think that's mutually exclusive in what you've done.
Not at all. B Corp has to be a for-profit company. And
Okay.
then this transaction that I did with the EOT, I did not gift the company away. I had 3 private valuations and I did very well in this transaction. It was just a different way. Instead of selling to private equity in another state where the profit would be leaving the community, I sold it and kept the money in the community. So now our team members are making more money. We can help close that wealth gap. Miami is a very expensive place to live. Money is staying here in the community benefits, and I did really well. So it's a win. And it really is. A lot of people instantly think, oh, you sold it to your employees. That's just so generous.
I think it is generous, and it doesn't mean you gave away all the profit. It does mean that you shared an opportunity
Yes.
that you did very well by, and you're allowing others to become part of that. But it does, I would think it anchors the business in terms of, so one of the issues that we talk about with all my clients is churn. So if you have employee ownership, you still have some churn, but you don't have the level of churn that others have.
Also preserve the purpose because this is following the perpetual purpose trust model. I don't know if you're familiar with Patagonia, the big
Yep,
clothing
yep,
brand.
yep, sure.
They sold their company using the exact same trust model, and their beneficiary is the environment. So their proceeds go to the environment. But what this does is it's written in the trust, the purpose gets protected. We're going to strive to maintain our B Corp certification. There are all these kind of rules that the trust has to keep going. Because if you were to sell it to an outside buyer, they might decide, we don't want this B Corp thing anymore. We don't want those snacks and those drinks anymore available in the locker for the team members who might need it. We offered that as well, but there are different ways to cut their expenses to become more profitable. And really, you can't really cut your way to profitability. You really do have to offer these opportunities so that your team members will go out and drive enrollments and keep more swimmers in the water. And it's all about retention. And right now, I think we have done that. Our co-owners are really engaged.
So two things come to mind. One, I own a business separate from everything else I do with consulting and all. It's primarily a baseball family entertainment center. I've owned it for 23 years, but it's been here for 43 years. And it's a big part of this community. The good and the bad of it is I own the building that we're in. We're in a very valuable real estate position. The problem with that is there are people all the time that want to buy my building, but they say, we can use this to store pianos, or we could put condominiums on the site. It's very difficult because what I want is the legacy is the business to stay there. And so there comes a difficulty there. So from the point you decided, okay, you were looking for an exit or a partial exit, I'm not going to say that you're exited, but a partial, how long did you spend doing the research and putting it all together and figuring all that out? Or did you hire an attorney that said, okay, here's the way we can go?
So around our 20-year anniversary, I was first approached by private equity. And so that was 12 years ago. And I didn't know what PE meant. I met with 3 gentlemen. They came to one of my locations. I didn't even have shoes on because they came early and I'd been walking around the pool deck. And I meet with these guys in suits. And I thought, this is really, why would somebody want to buy my business? You know, it just started the wheels turning.
Yeah.
So at that moment, I talked to my son and I really wanted to sell it to my son. I really wanted him to take over the business and he didn't want it. And that was tough. He didn't want to do this forever. So that's when I started thinking about how do I get it in the hands of my employees, and just started thinking of, okay, what if I did phantom stock? What if I sell it to these 3 people? Or what if I started just looking at different ways to do it? And I spoke to a lot of people in our industry about how can you sell to different people? But I realized they couldn't afford it. And then COVID hit. So that put a little bit of a stop on it. And then during COVID, I really spent a lot of time thinking, researching. I found worker cooperatives, which were really interesting model, but wasn't going to be what I wanted to do. And then I found the employee employee stock ownership plan, which was another model, but it's a retirement benefit plan and it's really cumbersome and it's overseen by the Department of Labor and has a lot of moving parts. So that wasn't going to be a great fit. And then I found the EOT. And when I found that, it checked all the boxes. It preserved the purpose. It was going to keep the transaction local. It was going to help close that wealth gap. It just was really the right instrument for us. And so now I really like talking about it because I like, if anybody's considering an exit, I just hope they put it as an alternative on the table with all the other things they're looking at, because it's good to talk to those private equity people because you learn from those transactions. It might be the right fit for you. It wasn't the right fit for us. I learned a lot by speaking to different groups.
I think you're right. It's not right for everybody. And some people just need an exit. They need a check. They want to get out. I don't know how to say this, but one of my missions is to keep people like yourself that have this passion in the business long enough. And unfortunately, they work so hard in the business, they're just physically tired. And so reorganizing and reimagining the way the business works allows the inspirational people like yourselves to stay in the business and not feel like they have to sell.
Yes. You said two things that are really important. I was 52 years old when I did this transaction. I wasn't ready to go anywhere yet. But if I wanted to get money off the table, I could have gotten bank financing for the transaction. It was just when I looked at the bank financing, I looked at the interest rates they were going to charge. I thought, I want that interest. I want to make that. So now I have a note and I'm doing quite well with that note. And it's the best company I know. So I wanted to invest in that company and have my investment there.
Yeah.
But this has been a game changer for our own it culture because our people think like owners. We just hit our 5,000 Google review and we have a 4.98 average rating.
Wow.
You don't get there unless people are just out there acting like owners. And if we mess up, they own it and they fix it and they want it to be better and they're just trying to make people happy. And so I think this is a really interesting model that you could do 10 years before you retire. And that way you do that transaction, you get money off the table, you start your plan, your exit plan, you still keep helping the company run, and then it can continue for decades. I brought it to 30 years. They're going to carry this mission forward for the next several decades. So I have no doubt.
I tend to throw in too many books out there, but now a friend of mine, author John Warlow, wrote the book Built to Sell. So I got certified assessor. So I spent some time at their conference and talking to John, and I loved his books. He writes books in fable format. They're easy to read, and it's a storytelling thing. So I said, John, you need to write the book Built to Stay. I think it's my vision of how you can build the value of the business and then never want to leave it. It's just the most fun place to go. We have a slogan or motto on our business that just says on the outside of the building, we're serious about your fun. That's why we're in this. Let us plan your fun. So we do birthday parties and lessons, but we're doing lessons to learn, not lessons to win a trophy or to win a tournament or to travel. I have a brother that lives in Scotland. He was the head of sports sponsorship for the Royal Bank of Scotland before they got into trouble. But I was telling him about you and that I was doing this interview with you today. And he said, well, they're very popular over there. And he said, what's her name? And I told him, he says, oh yeah, they use her name over here. So I don't know if you knew that.
That's funny.
He was at a corporate retreat where they were talking about B Corp because, as you said, it's more in use in the UK.
Well, B Corps are more in use in the UK, but also EOTs, that employee.
EOTs, yeah. It's a very different culture, but it's all good stuff. If we can take 5 more minutes and just tell me how you spend your days now. What are you doing? I know you're very busy, but share with everyone, what you're doing other than the business. What are you passionate about now?
It's still connected to the business in a couple of ways because I really have become a messenger for employee ownership. It's just something that I feel really passionate about. I think capitalism can save the world and it can really do amazing things for people. So I hope that I help others understand how this might fit. It might be a good business model or it might be a good succession plan. The other thing that I did is I started a nonprofit. The nonprofit is called Ripples of Impact and it's ROI. It's redefining ROI for business, not just to mean return on investment, but so many people think that your legacy is about all that you accumulate over time. And really, it's about the ripples that your choices set in motion. People are not going to remember your KPIs in 30 years, but there will be people who remember, I knew Steve and he helped me do this, and this is what became of it, and this is how my kids benefited, all those amazing things. And I think we need to be thinking of the ripples of impact. And so I do speak to different groups, and all of my speaking fees are donations to the actual nonprofit, which subsidizes tuition assistance and swimming scholarships.
Everybody that's listening, and I'll put this out on the air just to put you on the spot, we're inviting Miren to speak at our signature workshop in December. We haven't finalized that yet, but we would love to have you there. If anybody wants to learn more about Ripples of Impact, what's the website for that, or how do they find out about it?
Ripplesofimpact.org.
Okay.
They can go to my website, which is mirenoca.com, and we have links to everything there. And they can follow us on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn.
And you have to go to the website anyway because you have to see the logo. So everybody's going to do that. There's no way anybody is not going to go look at your website. I feel a bit foolish that so much of my time is put into graphic artists designing a logo where simplicity is such a key thing. I think that's great. I think everything that you're doing is great. One last thing, I know you're a professional speaker. I take great pride in getting to know speakers, but tell me about the type of talks or keynotes or presentations, or what is that side of your life like?
Sure. Well, I'm doing a lot of talk on building an own it culture, or a culture of ownership, whether or not you become an employee owned company, because I think we did the culture before we became employee owned. And I think it was really great for our business, just in general. I do speak on employee ownership. I am now starting to speak about ripples of impact and what that means and how you can measure. We have KPIs, we have a dashboard, but we also have our impact indicators, and we measure our different impact indicators in our business and how we're doing in our stories and things like that. So I've been speaking a lot about purpose also, because I think that purpose is what drives your culture and drives your mission. And our team members want to work for an organization that has a strong purpose, and we need to make sure we're telling them how they matter and how the business matters. Those are the things that I kind of speak about.
There's a story of a attorney from Canada. I can't remember his name. He was a corporate attorney and involved in litigation, and he got, which you hear this with attorneys, you get all caught up in this and you're not having fun anymore. He made the break and decided that he was going to start a one-for-one law firm, and for every hour that he billed for, he does 1 hour pro bono. And people say, that's great for you, but you're never going to be able to hire attorneys. And I think he did a TED Talk. I think that's where I heard about him. All of a sudden, his law firm is growing, and the number of people that want to do something with a purpose,
Yes.
and whether you're an owner or just an employee, they say the three things, Daniel Pink talks about three things that everybody wants is autonomy, mastery, and purpose.
Yes.
And if you can give that in the jobs you're giving, then you're building a great culture.
Absolutely.
Miren, this is awesome. I'm going to invite you back again because it's just too much fun not to do this. And if anybody actually wants to talk to you or hire you for a speaking event, is it best to go to the website first and then there's a link in there?
Yes, there's a link in there. They can also reach out on social media, and I'd be happy to connect with them.
She's all over the place, and as you can tell, she's fun to talk to, so it'll be great. Miren, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being on.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Okay, everyone, make it a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to Paradigm Playbook. Explore more at paradigmplaybook.com. Want to be a playmaker? Contact stephenjcook.com. Share this episode to spread the word about sports industry opportunities. See you next week.